What's up guys, and welcome to today's video. It's another nice day in England. We've been blessed with some nice weather, which is, if you live in England, is quite a rare occasion, as you know. And so I thought I would come out and do another tutorial for you guys outdoors in my garden. So today I'm going to teach you the tornado kick, or what's sometimes called a 360 round kick. Now it's very likely that I'm actually going to do two different tutorials for this move, partly for the reason that there's different ways of doing it, and they always seem to get called the same thing, which is just tornado kick, but in reality the execution of them is really quite different. Now the version that we're going to be doing today is the striking version, so it's the one where you kind of move forward or pretty much do it on the spot, one that you would do in sparring or against a bag or something like that. And the other one is the tricking version, which is quite different, but I'll cover that one at a later date. So the main differences between these are pretty much the footwork and how much you jump. The tricking version obviously is supposed to be super elaborate and kind of flamboyant, so you jump in the air and make it nice and big so it looks impressive. Whereas this version is almost the opposite of that, and you want it to not be telegraphed, you want to stay nice and tightly wrapped. So to start with, I'm coming into a mid-level karate type stance where my center of gravity is quite central. If you look at me from here, you can see I'm quite balanced on my legs, whereas often not like a stand-up stance like this where I've got predominantly the weight on my back leg. I'm a bit more distributed in the center, and this is often a stance I would like to do kicking type techniques from, because you can move in and out and shift your weight either way. So we're going to start with that, and we're going to take the kicking leg forwards. Now when you do all of these different spinning kicks especially, you'll start to learn that the footwork patterns for them are all very similar and all take on kind of similar rules or traits, if you know what I mean. And so the more experience you get with these, the more you'll learn that, and you'll see how they all work, and you're able to link them together much more effectively, and it gets into a kind of like flow state. So the first thing that we're going to learn is the footwork for this move. Now to break this down into its absolute bare bones, it literally is step to here, turn and kick. Now that's the most basic way you can practice it, so if you really don't have any experience with this move, you can do that to start with, to really kind of like learn where you need to be kicking. Now obviously when we do it at speed, it's different, and we need to move forward very quickly as well, so let's break that down. So what's really important to do to start with is to step over to here and keep your core really, really rigid. This is one of the most important things in this move, is to ensure that your body all moves as one unit, and one part of it, say your torso, doesn't move independently of your legs. So one of the biggest mistakes right off the bat that people get with this is they're disjointed, and they'll start to like spin their body around and not do anything with their feet, or they'll start to spin the feet and get caught behind, okay? So you must ensure that your body moves as one unit. And the way I like to think of this is almost as if, imagine if your hips have kind of like some type of like levers on them, and this one can kind of like push and this one can pull back. So it's almost like you're initiating the movement all from the core rather than using purely your arms or purely your legs. So from here, as I begin to turn, it's like I turn my hips this way and push this way forwards, and with the left hip I kind of almost like pull myself back around. So you need both of those in order to kind of get the movement explosive enough to actually build the speed throughout the technique. Step to here, look forwards, and then I'm going to turn my body as one unit, keeping the core nice and rigid, not tense and forceful, still in a relaxed state, but rigid enough to kind of turn through here, and I'm going to turn back again. Now you see how the shoulders almost kind of replace each other as they go through, so I'm not going like step, step, or step like this, do you know what I mean? I'm kind of, my body's all moving, 1, 2, 3, yeah? It's like I'm doing a rotation all the way through. So when we do these steps, they don't really happen as steps. They're more like tiny little hops where we're very close to the floor, but we're completing quite a big rotation in the air. The reason for that is obviously we don't want to telegraph the move. So we're going to step across to here, turn the head round to here, and this is the point where I lift the leg, but I don't lift it up really high like this. That's the other version where you want to go up in the air. We want to go forwards, so we're using the momentum from the spin to travel forwards and deliver a powerful kick. We're not using that momentum to go upwards. So step to here, and instead of taking this up and jumping, I'm going to use this leg to almost pull me round into position like this before I kick. So if you saw me say in the spin hook kick about using the arm like a rudder, in this technique it's almost like the leg is the rudder as we spin. So it's like a step to here, use my arms and spin through. Now I'm almost like pulling backwards on this hip in order to turn myself around into that position. Now when we're doing this at speed, we don't want to be really landing like this. We ideally want to end up in the turning kicking position, which is where the heel faces more towards the target, and I get into this position so I can deliver a nice powerful kick. Now the way that you do that is from this part of the turn, as you initiate the spin, you come all the way around and land, ideally, like I said, it's quite a big rotation, and you land in that position with the foot there. So if you do try and spin through and you land somewhere like this, then the kick is going to have no power. And that's a really common thing that you see people do who haven't really understood the turn of the move, is they'll land through and they'll be facing the target, then it's like they may as well not have actually done the spin because all the motion's coming from the leg. If you've initiated the spin correctly and really got everything lined up, the kick should just happen and feel effortless and also be really powerful as well. So the way that would look is like this: step, rotate, land. And I've landed pretty much with my heel facing just a little bit off, but relatively towards there. It's much different to if I didn't land in that right position and I only landed here. You see how the body's kind of like folded up and I'm just not in position. So all of these things really need to kind of be refined and broken down individually to be able to really get that flow in the move, and it just takes practice, of course, just like anything. One last thing to mention about having that body moving as one unit is you do often see people, even if they've got the step down on this, one thing that can really hold them back is as they come to do the kick, the kicking part, even if they're in position, if this arm, the same arm as the kicking leg, is behind the body and it's been left behind, then the kick is going to lose power, because again this is creating a disjoint between my torso and my legs, and it's pulling me behind. It's almost like trying to go one way but also the other way as well, and that happens because you've already used it to initiate the spin. A lot of people kind of forget about it and just let it go loose, but it ends up causing drag and slowing down the move. So try to be mindful of this when you start. So turn through to here. As you come through, keep it tight like this and don't let it flop behind, because it will cause your whole body to twist through and out of the alignment that you want. So turning through, boom, boom, like that. Now just to add on to this is something I wanted to mention that I noticed only when I was watching the footage back, is that when I do step through for my initial step, I actually go a lot further than I said in the tutorial, and I think that's just through doing it a lot of times. I've kind of gotten used to where my feet should be placed. But if you watch this, you can see how kind of it cuts a lot of the spin out, so a lot of it is done before the kick even comes out. So when you get a bit more experienced with it, you can have a go at doing this as well, and it's really going to speed it up and make it more explosive. Now these stance switching motions are really good for getting your body to move as one unit, as I mentioned earlier in the tutorial. You see how my torso and my legs kind of stay along the same line, even if I'm doing a full kind of 360 motion like this. And it's really good for your footwork, getting you nice and light on your feet and getting used to moving in that way. So you'll be able to spin and keep that body moving as one. And lastly, these are just some switch kicks from a regular stance, but what I'm doing is, instead of kind of pivoting on the foot slowly like you would normally see, I'm jumping into position, so my foot turns fully backwards. And the reason for this is it's very similar to how you come out of that tornado kick spin into the kick. So if you practice these, that should be how it would feel when you do it at full speed. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions about it, and I will see you next time.
These civilizations are incredibly advanced. interface with consciousness and that we can make contact as civilians. We do not have to wait for the governments to do it. The universe.
The turning kick, we want the foot to be facing towards the target, the heel. Fuck's sake. Step to here, turn through on that hip, boom. That's fucking shit. When we do a turning kick, ideally we want to have our foot heel facing as much towards the target as possible. We want to have our heel facing as much towards the target as possible. Now when we do this at speed, no, go on, you can't stand there because you're in the way of my feet. So step, go on.